So, I hear there's an election coming up. I've even heard it said that it is the most consequential election of our lifetime. So, with early voting beginning here in Tennessee this week, how do we, as people of faith and conscience, approach this election? How do we approach this election in light of the Jewish High Holy Day of Yom Kippur, observed by our Jewish siblings here and around the world, an observance which concluded yesterday? How do we approach this election in light of our Unitarian Universalist principles and values that call us to use democratic processes while also calling us to generosity? How then do we make voting into an act of generosity? Yom Kippur is a day of fasting, praying, and asking for forgiveness, also known as the Day of Atonement. It is a day of spiritual preparation for the work of, if we break that word down, atonement, at one-ment. So it's a day of spiritual preparation for the work of at-one-ment, for the work of tikkun olam, a Hebrew phrase which roughly translated means repairing the world, which is the work of atonement or at-one-ment, healing divisions so that we can be at one with ourselves, within our families, within our neighborhoods and communities, within our world, healing divisions so that we may be at one with life. So here's the hard reality of this election. No matter the outcome, or should I say outcomes, as there are many consequential races to be decided both locally and nationally, but no matter who wins and who loses, come November 6th, we will all have to do the work of at-one-ment. We will have to learn or relearn how to get along with each other. And by we, I mean our whole human family here in the United States, for it is we who create a civil society, not just with our vote, but with our daily actions and interactions. This is the work of tikkun olam, repairing the world, one action and one interaction at a time. But let me be clear. When I say we need to learn or relearn how to get along with each other, I don't mean going along to get along, as they say, and I don't mean appeasement or acquiescence to systems of coercive power. Neither of these will help to heal the world, but will serve to drive divisions even deeper. Depending on the outcome or outcomes of this election, we may need to work even harder than we do now to strengthen networks of care and protection for those made more vulnerable by rights being further diminished or taken away. The hard work is in resisting the temptation to demonize people we disagree with, even those with ideas and actions we strongly oppose. I can tell you this is hard work because I have to work at it myself. As the contemporary Christian mystic James Finley sees it, our work is to become a healing presence in a traumatized and traumatizing world. Or, as Martin Luther King said, we adopt the means of nonviolence because our end is a community at peace with itself. My friends, there are no perfect candidates because there are no perfect humans. But there are those candidates more likely to lead with generous hearts. And the systems that brought us to this day won't change overnight. No matter the outcome of the election, it will take sustained effort to bring about the change we want to see and then sustain it. The work of tikkun olam, repairing the world, must be a daily practice. Whether we wake up on November 6th celebrating or mourning, our work is the same. To continue bending the moral arc of the universe toward justice. That arc isn't going to bend on its own. It will only bend by human effort, and it will take human effort to keep it bent. How we vote is one way we bend the arc, and I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. I am here to encourage you to cast your vote generously, to think of your vote as a gift that you give to others, a gift you give to the world. Right now, politicians are trying to win over voters by appealing to individuals. Vote for me and I promise your life will be better, they say. It's an approach that may win elections, but it also serves to reinforce the consumer culture that has gotten us into the mess that we are in today. John Alexander wrote a book titled Citizen: Why the Key to Fixing Everything is All of Us, which is a call to move from a culture of consumerism to a culture of citizenship, to understand ourselves not as consumers of goods and services, but as citizens of the world as we know it can be. I think we all know that reducing consumption of the Earth's resources has become a moral imperative in our time. But the shift that Alexander is talking about is something a little bit more than that. It's a shift in consciousness, how we understand the very nature of what it means to be human, to understand ourselves not as consumers, but as citizens. Citizens doing the work of tikkun olam, repairing and restoring the world to the garden it was meant to be. I feel a little bit like I'm preaching to the choir when I say voting is an element of citizenship in a democratic society. I'm pretty sure that everyone here has a plan to vote. Can I get an amen? Amen. So everyone here has a plan to vote. And I plan to vote early because mostly it works better in my schedule. But I have to say that part of me will miss being part of that big election day on November 5th this year. I love going to the polling place. I love being with my neighbors, the people who live around me, even though most of them I've never met, and probably at least half of them supporting candidates and agendas different from mine. But there's just something about all of us being there together, peacefully and respectfully, even if only for a brief time. all of us casting our ballots, getting our I voted stickers, all of us leaving with an embodied experience of at least one small aspect of what it means to be a citizen, which is to vote. Like I said, I'm confident that everyone here will vote in whatever way works best for you. Today, I'm simply asking that you vote with a generous heart. The Reverend Ralph Warnock, senator from Georgia and pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church where Martin Luther King once served, says, "A vote is a kind of prayer for the world we desire for ourselves and for our children. If we vote our Unitarian Universalist values, it is a prayer for a world transformed into one that is just, equitable, interdependent, pluralistic, and generous, a world with love at its center. If we are to achieve this vision, it means we must vote not just with our own needs, wants, and desires in mind, but with the needs, wants, and desires of our neighbors in mind. We vote then not just to improve our own lives, but the lives of our neighbors, not just the ones who look like us or love like us or believe like us, not just the neighbors who live next door to us, but our neighbors all across our country. Our immigrant neighbors, our Black and brown neighbors, our queer neighbors, our incarcerated neighbors, our unhoused neighbors, our disabled neighbors, our neighbors with young children to care for, our neighbors who need access to reproductive services, our elderly neighbors, and our neighbors who just struggle every day just to get by. It's like the story we told our children this morning, stepping back to see the whole field of flowers, taking water where it is most needed, and then noticing that the whole field flourishes when every flower gets what it needs. It's easy to be fearful and to feel powerless in the face of this election, knowing that the 806 billionaires in this country have a heavy hand in our political landscape. But let us be reminded of the words of the cultural anthropologist Margaret Mead, who said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." So think of this with Margaret Mead's words in mind. If a small group of committed citizens can change the world, imagine the 65 million people who have less wealth combined than those 806 billionaires awakened to their collective power, to our collective power, becoming citizens, not consumers. What if we awakened to our collective power and voted generously for ourselves and for each other? Your vote in this consequential election not only helps to keep our democracy alive, it is an expression of your values. Your vote matters because you matter. Your vote is a gift that you give to yourself, a gift you give to others, and a gift that you give to the world. Remember this, though. The real work begins after the votes are counted, the work of atonement, the work of at-one-ment, the work of tikkun olam, the work of repairing the world. Let us be about that work.